Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Real. Taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Yeah, like I said, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and please like this video. It's the best way you can support this channel. I'd really appreciate that. And also, if you haven't checked out my episode on Sunday, the Mother's Day special with my sister Julia and I, please check that out. It's probably my proudest and favorite show I've done so far on this channel. So please go check that out. It was awesome, really good. Julie was phenomenal. So please go check that out. Yeah. Why am I here today? I'm here today because I had to do some investigating the last, 48 hours or so, less than 48 hours since Monday night. I've done some investigating and kind of wrote down a lot of notes here, got a lot of videos or a couple things I want to show you guys today of why was LeBron at the game Monday night in Cleveland, the Cavs versus Celtics game. And so if you guys haven't seen already, LeBron walked into the game Monday night. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I get into it, let me put these on. I feel like these are necessary for today. Why, I don't know, but I just feel like it's necessary. So, but if you guys haven't seen, Monday night, the Cavs played game 4. Donovan Mitchell didn't play. Cavs lost game 3 Saturday night, and you kind of felt like, okay, that was their best shot was game 3. It was tied 1-1. They lost at home in a close one, and was close, and they let it slip away late. And lost. And so Donovan didn't play Monday night. You could tell obviously he's hurt. And so Cavs went out, played hard, but they lost game 4. Now they're down 3-1. They play tonight. Probably going to lose, but they did what they needed to this year, in my opinion, by just getting past the first round. They're a young team. And I think they're not that far away, really. I think they're a piece away, which could be the piece I'm talking about today. And so the Cavs lose Monday night, right? But the headline coming out of that game Monday night was, well, number one, I think the Cavs played really good even without Darius. I thought some of the guys stepped up and played well. Donovan didn't play, but I thought Darius played well and stepped up. I thought Mobley had a good game, Struz. But LeBron James and his wife Savannah and his agent Rich Paul walk into the game as the game starts, or maybe shortly after, make this grand entrance. The crowd goes crazy. There's people in the media that are sitting there, like Jason Lloyd said, they were just stunned that he walked in. Brian Windhorst, longtime NBA reporter who's covered LeBron closer than anybody since high school. I think he went to the same high school as LeBron down here in Akron. So, Windhorst even said too he was getting texts during the game of his meme like this, his famous meme, and GM's texting him saying, "What is going on in Cleveland?" And so I got my thoughts of what I think this could be a signal. I do think what LeBron did Monday night was very calculated. His son Bronny also declared for the draft and had the draft combine going on Monday night. Brian Windhorst did say LeBron was in town over the weekend because of Mother's Day, but Mother's Day was Sunday. I would have thought he would have flew out Monday morning, went to Chicago to would have started the combine for the next how many days it is this week. But he chose to stay in Cleveland Monday and not only stay home but go to the game. And he doesn't even live in Cleveland. He lives about 30-40 minutes away from Cleveland, so he had to drive up to the game. So he to me it was very calculated what he did Monday night, and so I'm gonna get into it now. Also, it should be noted that Windhorst did say that Rich Paul did inform the Lakers of this plans coming up, or of the plans on Monday night to attend the game, so the Lakers knew about it. But to me, I think this was calculated. I think this was planned for I don't know how many days, probably within the last week. I think LeBron, in my opinion, had an idea he wanted to attend this game. And I'm going to share to you why I think that. But first, I want to get into the media's reaction on about all this on yesterday, Tuesday. And so yesterday, people are going nuts on the media. What's going on? And, what does this mean? And a lot of people in the media, national media, said, I think this is more just put pressure on the Lakers. Now, some media members also said he's up to something. Could he go back to Cleveland? Could they draft Bronny? Because Bronny's in the draft. Now, the Lakers have the 17th pick and the 55th pick coming up this year. I don't think you can justify taking Bronny with the 17th pick. He didn't have the greatest season in USC. I don't think that was a justification who he is as a player. I don't think that shows who he was as a player. I think he's coming off the incident that happened to him with his health last summer. And he even said yesterday in his interview, just mentally, that's been really hard on him. And college is different too than the NBA game. Some guys aren't actually really good college players, but they're actually great NBA players. College teams can sit in the zone on you, and the floor shrinks and certain systems, and that's what a lot of scouts have reported to believe, that they think Bronny played out of position at USC, that he's better than what he showed. And also a lot of it is just what just happened to him. So, I didn't expect him to play great last season because of what happened to him. That's got to be a lot mentally on him. He's already got enough pressure on him as it is because of who he is. And everybody expects him to be great. And his dad's been saying for how many years now, I want to play with my son in the NBA. And so that's the big thing in all this is Bronny is going to be getting drafted here in June 23rd. LeBron could be a free agent this summer. He can opt out of his contract, or he can opt back into $55 million. But a lot of people expect him to opt out, and he can re-sign with the Lakers, or he can look at options elsewhere. And so why was he there Monday night? And a lot of people in the media said, well, I heard some people say, and a lot of fans even, well, I think it's just putting pressure on the Lakers. This is just to let the Lakers know, and also keep his name in the spotlight. Now, maybe he put his name out there Monday night. By doing this Monday, maybe it was to take pressure off Bronny at the Combine. Maybe. I'm going to break down a lot of different theories today, but that's one of them. Did LeBron do this Monday night because he knew it would draw attention, all this speculation, and maybe it's just to take pressure off Bronny at the Combine so people aren't really talking about Bronny's much more. They're talking about his dad. I don't think that was really the case. I think LeBron did this on purpose for a different reason. But going back to one of those reasons is, did he do it to get the Lakers' attention? Well, I don't know why LeBron would have to get the Lakers' attention, because according to Dave McMenamin of ESPN last week, the Lakers want him back on, quote, any term that he wants. He said on the Rich Eisen show, that can mean money of which the Lakers can offer up to $164 million of 3 years. It can also mean stacking the offseason with a sense of urgency. They could see the team pursuing a guy like Trae Young of Atlanta, or maybe impending free agent Klay Thompson of Golden State. And so, why would LeBron need to put pressure on the Lakers if the Lakers just said, we'll do whatever he wants? They fired Darvin Ham. Now they're talking about J.J. Redick, LeBron's new podcast made in the last month, former player who's never been a coach at any NBA level. He's never been an NBA coach anywhere, never been a college coach. I think he coached youth basketball. Never been a head coach. He's going to come in and coach the LA Lakers on his first term as a head coach, because he's LeBron's boy. That's the guy they're saying. And now today and yesterday, Mike Krzyzewski, LeBron's longtime friend, he's consulting the Lakers on on their head coaching decision, and there's another guy out there who used to be with Miami that Udonis hasn't mentioned yesterday, but he's never been a head coach either. And then also James Borrego used to be a head coach at one point with the Hornets. And then former player Sam Cassell's also been mentioned as well. But so the Lakers, this is what everybody's saying. Well, this is just LeBron putting pressure on the Lakers. He's putting pressure on them. Like I saw Stephen A. Smith said today, he's trying to pressure them to put the draft Bronny, hire J.J. Redick, pay me my money, and let's trade for Trae Young, right? Let's get all four of those things done. Let's trade away your 3 first-round picks again. Let's trade away your future again, even though I'm only staying private for another 2 years. You got to draft my son with one of your draft picks, and you need to hire the coach I want, who's probably going to get fired after I retire anyways. I just don't. Yeah, Trae Young to me does not move the needle for the Lakers if they acquire him. He's a good player. He could shoot the lights out. He's great, but he's 5'11", 6 foot. He's small. Not a great defender, especially with the Lakers. For most of LeBron's time in LA outside of the bubble year, have not been a really good perimeter defensive team at all. Teams are always getting to the rack on them. And so this is who we're going to bring in, Trae Young, who is a clutch client, and Atlanta just got the #1 overall pick in the lottery. So I do think Trae Young will be on the move. I just don't know if Atlanta wants and the Lakers even. Does Trae Young really move the needle for you? Especially in a West where you have Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. You have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in the Nuggets. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and all those guys in OKC. Kevin Durant might be on the move somewhere. You got all these different young teams. These other teams growing. Golden State's going to be back healthy. I mean, you're going to have a lot of teams. I just don't know if Trae Young really moves the needle, to be honest with you. I don't know if Trae Young, who needs the ball in his hands to be great most 20% or 95% of the time, works well with LeBron either. So, and he's a liability on defense. And Klay Thompson, I like, Klay Thompson's an all-time great shooter, one of the better players in the last 10 years, probably in the league. But he's old. He was benched at this point 1 year in Golden State. And that's the guy they're throwing out there as the big free agent is Klay Thompson. That's what's going to make LeBron stay. Not buying it. And I'm not buying either that this was a ploy, that this whole thing was a game plan by LeBron to put pressure on the Lakers Monday night. Just show up at the game in Cleveland. I'm just not buying. Because here's one thing I've heard nobody mention. Is LeBron's had 3 head coaches under his 6 years in LA as a Laker. First time was Luke Walton. He was fired after year 1. The Lakers brought in Frank Vogel, who also added Phil Handy. Phil Handy is one of LeBron's favorite coaches. They're very close. Phil Handy did a seminar right by my house, a coaching seminar a couple years back or a year back at the Island here at Cuyahoga Falls. Not too far from where I am. And so LeBron and Phil Handy are very close. And so Phil Handy when Frank Vogel was fired by the Lakers after he won a championship, Phil Handy was still retained by Darvin Ham. And so from Cleveland to LA, Phil Handy has been with LeBron. And you know why. And now Phil Handy is a great coach. He's a really good player development coach, probably one of the better ones in the world, in the league, in the NBA for sure. But he's definitely there because LeBron. They have a connection. LeBron wants him, and I'm sure Phil likes working with LeBron and his teams. And so when the Lakers fired Darvin Ham a month or a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, usually when you fire a head coach, the guy you hire to come in behind him, the next guy, is allowed to retain on that former staff or let go of who he pleases. He can pick who he wants to bring back from the former staff if he wants, like Phil Handy. Or he can say, I don't want him, he can move on. Well, the Lakers fired the entire staff. Wiped it out clean. So Phil Handy don't really have a shot of even coming back to the Lakers. He's done in LA. And I remember when I saw that, I was kind of surprised. And it kind of opened my eye a little bit. Like, well, hold on a minute. Phil Handy's LeBron's guy. And it says here the Lakers want to bring him back on any term he wants. I don't know if LeBron really agreed with him firing Phil Handy, to be honest with you. LeBron, if you want to bring him back on any term he wants, you're going to do whatever LeBron wants, right, LA? I don't think firing Phil Handy was a smart move. I'm sure LeBron, I don't see how LeBron signed off on that. If you retain him from 2 head coaching, if you retain him from the last 2 head coaches you brought in, and firings and hirings, why fire him now all of a sudden? Doesn't make any sense. And so I don't buy this whole, LeBron is all in back on the Lakers and Lakers can do whatever he wants. I just don't see that happening right now. And I think what he did Monday night really signaled that, in my opinion, because I looked at it in a different direction. And so I'm going to do a little history lesson for you guys today, right? And connect some dots of what I think could be happening. Because we've seen this movie play out before, right, actually. And I'm going to show you that right now. And so let's fast forward a bit. Let's go to All-Star Weekend this year, right? All-Star Weekend this year in Indianapolis. LeBron says at All-Star Weekend, he hopes to remain a Laker as his career draws to a close. 50-50 if he wants a farewell tour. But he says right there, he hopes to remain a Laker as his career draws to a close. right? So this is this year at the All-Star break. How about we go back now to 2012? Or no, excuse me, not 20. Let's go back to 2014. And this is LeBron in 2014. You guys remember 2014? LeBron was with the Miami Heat. They just won back-to-back championships. He was about to become a free agent, and the Cavs were speculated as a team. Maybe he can leave Miami and go to, and some other teams as well. But a lot of people in the media said he's not leaving Miami. No way. Heat culture, the weather, and they even asked LeBron about it. This is at the All-Star break in 2014. Kind of similar in the stay with me, or kind of similar in the timing of this year. What he just said there in that article, like I showed right here with the Lakers, about he hopes to remain a Laker, right? So stay with me here. This is in 2012, or excuse me, 2014. I'm gonna go to 2012 here in a minute. 2014. This is what he says in an interview with Steve Smith of NBA TV, former NBA player, about what he was thinking. Steve Smith asked him straight up, "What are you going to do this summer? What are you thinking right now?" Here's what he said at the All-Star weekend then.
Thinking about what's next. You went 3 in a row, a three-peat. It's all said and done. We know free agency is coming up.
Yeah.
Can you picture yourself somewhere else?
At this point, I can't. We don't know what could happen from now to July.
Right.
So what I've been able to do this whole season to this point is just worry about what's at hand, and that's winning the championship. And hopefully at the end of this year, I can put myself in a position where I can hold that Larry O'Brien trophy up once again, and then I will assess what I have to do with my future after that.
I would have to assess what I want to do with my future after that. Now, we all know the outcome of what happened. 4 months later, he went back to Cleveland, right? Or 5 months later at that time. In July, he went back to the Cavs. But at that time at All-Star Weekend, he said he didn't see himself leaving Miami, and that he'll assess his future, when it comes time, and he's just worried about winning a championship. Kind of similar to some of the things you followed him this year. He said kind of similar things, like I said right there in this article. He hopes to remain a Laker. Wants to finish his career in LA, and he was trying to win a championship this year for LA. And I did an episode back in February about LeBron going to the New York Knicks. And I think that was LeBron. That whole thing, looking back on it now, I think was LeBron. That was LeBron putting pressure on the Lakers about making a move with the All-Star break. And they didn't make any moves at the All-Star break. And according to Brian Windhorst, LeBron was pissed about that. So, but shall we go back in history a little bit more? All right. Let's go to, let me look at my next slide here. Let's go to 2014 again. Let's go to March of 2014 now. So you saw that in February. Let's go to March. LeBron, this is a Brian Windhorst yesterday, and his quote, "I will say this, the first thing I thought of this moment was of this, I will say this, the first thing I thought of was this moment 10 years ago where LeBron showed up to a Cleveland game, where he played for the Miami Heat to honor Zydrunas Ilgauskas' jersey retirement, his longtime teammate," said Windhorst. "And he got on a private plane, flew from Chicago over to Cleveland on an off night. Pat Riley was not happy, and a few months later, he signed with the Cavs. He's extremely strategic, and I wish I could tell you I knew exactly what he was doing. I don't pretend to know what he's got to be up to. I don't pretend to know, but he's got to be up to something." So look, Brian Windhorst here is referring to when LeBron, back in 2014, right? So I just showed you the video there. We know he's becoming a free agent, kind of similar to right now. A lot of speculation about his future. LeBron came back to Cleveland for Zydrunas Ilgauskas' jersey retirement ceremony that March, as you can see here. He stood up in the booth that night, right? And Pat Riley was not happy. He flew over, but LeBron came anyways. And so this right here opened. I remember when this happened. I was in 8th grade, and I was already speculating, like a lot of fans, is he going to come back? Is he going to come back? Because we were really hoping he would. And I remember when I saw this, I was like, gee, that's kind of interesting. I remember my dad thought the same thing too. I remember as a kid, he told me, he's like, gee, he might be sending a message like with that, like maybe he is coming back. Maybe he's just coming to like feel it out. And I remember that night too, he was down in the tunnel, and all the fans were like taking pictures of him, and he was standing there. And But that's what Brian Windhorst was alluding to there. And it's kind of similar to the other night. Except the other night, he didn't set up in a booth. He could have. LeBron the other night was Dan Gilbert's guest at the game, according to Brian Windhorst. And he sat courtside this time, made the grand entrance, right? Everybody could see him the other night. See, that night in Miami, when he was in Miami in 2014, he tried to stay hidden a little bit. But everybody knew he was going to be there, and he was seen. He even talked about it before he went. But still, it was, and seeing the result 4 months later after that in 2014, he ended up signing with the Cavs. I think that was definitely a signal as well. I don't think if LeBron was planning to come back to Cleveland, he wouldn't have came to that. I don't think he would have came to that retirement ceremony in 2014. Me personally, I don't believe that. And so, to me, that was a message, right? And so, you kind of see where I'm going with now. Could LeBron's showing up at the game the other night, could that be him signaling that, gee, he might be coming back to the Cavs, right? And also back in 2014, I remember in April, he came back to the Cavs, or later that month, in March, excuse me, LeBron came back to Cleveland again. And that night, he dropped 43 points, had 25 points in the first quarter, put on an absolute show. How do I remember this? Because up there in the left-hand corner, that kid right up, I don't know if you guys can see it, but up there in the left-hand corner, there's a kid with the hat on. That's me at the game. And I'll never forget that night. He was unbelievable that night. 5 rows behind me was Frank Walker, LeBron's childhood coach and one of his close teammates or close friends. And then sitting next to me that night on the other side of the aisle was Shion Cotton, LeBron's high school teammate, part of the Fab Five. And I remember that night when you watched him play, you could just tell it was almost like he was, by his play, he was trying to send another message, like just lighten up the Cavs that night and just put on this great performance. You could just kind of tell, like, there was just different energy that night. And you kind of, all the speculation was going on. He was just in the arena a couple weeks prior at Cydrunas' thing. Now he's back playing a game for the Heat against the Cavs. I remember just the energy in the stadium that night. You could just tell after the game, after the performance he put on, there was just something a little different. And all his people were there that night. You could just tell something. I met DJ Stepfloss that night for the first time. Shout out to him. He was a nice guy. That's also part of one of LeBron's close guys. And I remember meeting him that night and talking to him for a little bit. But you could just tell something was different. And so, could LeBron come back to the Cavs? Well, Jason Lloyd pointed out yesterday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and reminded everybody, back in 2012 at the All-Star break, when it was in Cleveland, 2022, this is the All-Star game in Cleveland. LeBron told Jason Lloyd, quote, "The door's not closed on that, on a potential return to Cleveland." And he also went on later in the article as well to point out that, talking about Bronny, how he would love to play with Bronny, and that at that point, which is now, it wouldn't be about money, and that he would, basically take less to play with Bronny at whatever team he wants to play with him. Now, Rich Paul said recently that he's kind of retracted that and said that that's not LeBron's main priority, is to play with his son. Doesn't have to play with him, just wants to play on the court with or against him. But this is what he told Jason Lloyd 2012. That door is not closed. So this is 2 years ago, right? So let's go to 2012 now. This is 2 years for LeBron came back to Cleveland, exact same timing. LeBron says he could see himself returning to the Cavs. And he goes on at this time, and he said the exact same thing. This is in 2012 as a Miami Heat member, after all the stuff that happened with the decision. He said, and then in the article goes on, he says the door wasn't closed on return to Cleveland. He would never rule that out, he said. I remember the exact quote. I remember the day I heard this as a kid. But let's go back, though. He just said that, if you look at the timeline, he said the same thing 2 years ago, now, as a Laker, that the door's not closed. When it was 2 years out from the free agency as a member of the Miami Heat, he said he wouldn't rule it out. He could return to the Cavs. What he ended up doing? He returned to the Cavs. And so, to me, the timeline is very interesting. It's about the same. It all lines up. All the stuff that's happened recently with him now, and what I showed you in the months leading up to when he made the decision in 2014 to come back, right? And so, the timeline is very similar. But there's also some other key elements to this as well. And that is, the assistant GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers, if you don't know who he is, the assistant GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers is Brandon Weems. Who is Brandon Weems? Brandon Weems is LeBron's childhood friend. He He met LeBron when he was 5, 6 years old. They started playing Pee Wee football together, and you can see right here in this article. Let me pull it up. Right here, LeBron James' right hand man, Brandon Weems. This is when Brandon was getting a coaching job at Oakland University. It's in 2015 when LeBron came back. And you can see right here in the article, LeBron's right hand man. And you can see here, LeBron says in the article, I make sure I look out for him. He's my little brother, and he's one of his closest homeboys from Akron, Ohio. And it says right here that they met when they were 5, 6 years old. Right here, they played Pee Wee football. They grew up together. They played high school basketball together at St. V. They're very close friends. Well, Brandon Weems is the assistant GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And when LeBron left in 2018, when LeBron took his talents to LA, Brandon Weems was hired shortly after as a director of scouting. Means he was head of the director of scouting for the draft. And that was a very crucial time in the draft for the Cavs. Who did the Cavs draft that year? Darius Garland, a Clutch client and a close friend of LeBron James. They also went on to draft Evan Mobley, a USC product, a big man that kind of similar to Anthony Davis' skill set, has that potential. A big man that would play well with LeBron, right? And so you're kind of seeing here some of the dominoes lining up, right? And you can also go to this article as well. Let me pull this one up here. This is in 2012 again, or excuse me, 2022 again. So remember at the All-Star break, he made his comments about, yeah, that door's not closed. Well, this is months later. Let me pull this one up here, this article. Some of you guys may remember this. The Cavs were rolling. They were on a rise. Donovan Mitchell just got traded to Cleveland. And this is after the Cavs beat the Lakers in LA with Donovan Mitchell that beginning of that season last year. And the Cleveland Cavaliers' rise has caught everyone's attention, LeBron James included. And in this article, LeBron goes on to talk about how they've done a great job drafting. And, he loves the young core, loves Evan Mobley, Darius, gave Kobe Altman a ton of praise. He loves JB Big. He thinks JB's a great coach, right? So again, this is 2 years ago, or almost kind of a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Talking about how much he loves the roster. They've done a great job. But again, kind of similar when he was in Miami. A little different. He's a lot more open now. But kind of similar in the time. 2 years out, starts talking about the Cleveland again. Starts talking about the Cavs. Starts talking about a return. This time with the Lakers 2 years ago, he's talking about, I wouldn't rule that out. Love to play with my son Bronny, and I would love to. Or talking about how much he loves the team, right? I can remember when LeBron left and went to LA in 2018. You can go look this up. I didn't pull this up. You guys can look this up and check. I know this is for a fact. The day LeBron opened the school that summer, the I Promise School, he did an interview with CNN's Don Lemon that day, but he also did an interview with Channel 3, the local Channel 3 here in Cleveland, WKYC. And during that interview, you can go pull this up. It's probably on YouTube or look it up in an article. He said, the lady asked him, could you imagine yourself coming back around again to Cleveland and finishing your career? This is right after a month after he left, announced he was going to the Lakers. And he said himself, he basically said he wouldn't rule it out. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. You can go look it up. But he goes, I wouldn't rule that out. He said, I would never rule anything out. And so he's always left the door open since he left for LA. And you've seen the last couple of years how he's kind of thrown it out there. Now, going back to 2022, when he said all that stuff to Jason Lee at the All-Star break, and then talking about the Cavs roster, I do think at that time he was trying to pressure the Lakers to make moves. Because when he went back to LA, allegedly, there was a rumor, when he got back to LA from Cleveland after the All-Star break, they were not very happy with all that. And they had like this emergency, according to Carcino, on YouTube, was very plugged in. They had like a meeting on that Tuesday and all this stuff. And LeBron, talk about he was committed to LA and all this. But then this year, even at the trade deadline this year, leading up to it, this year in 2024, David Pingalore, a longtime NBA reporter, reported in Cleveland at one point when LeBron was in Cleveland, is now a KTLA reporter in LA. He mentioned how, at that point, he put out this tweet that went viral that the Lakers had a couple suitors for a potential LeBron trade, and that they were possibly going to trade LeBron at the deadline. All this, I think that was more of the Lakers just kind of signaling back to LeBron, "We're not going to do what you say." But again, that kind of goes against the original thing I brought up at the beginning of the show about how the Lakers were all in. But you fired Phil Handy, which is his guy. You didn't bring him back, or give him the chance for the coach to bring him back. And at the All-Star break, you can't tell me David Pingalore didn't just throw that out of thin air. That was the Lakers, to me, signaling to LeBron, "We're not going to do whatever you say. We are the LA Lakers. You're not just going to bully us around." And so I do think the Lakers are trying to grandstand a little bit with that report about, we'll do whatever he says. I think they don't want LeBron to leave because he generates them a lot of money and revenue and makes them relevant. Although they are the Lakers, but if LeBron left the Lakers, I do think they're probably looking at a 1 to 2 year at least rebuild, because they give so much assets, and they're not just going to become a title contender overnight again if LeBron left. Far from it. So, I mean, they're not even making the playoffs now with them. Or they are making the playoffs, but they're not. Well, 2 years ago, they didn't make playoffs. Last year, made the West Conference Finals, and this year, they're not. They're barely making the playoffs, what I meant to say. They were the 8th seed, I think. 7th or 8th seed. And so they're getting bounced in the first round, getting swept by Denver, the elite teams in the West. And so, looking at all this, I do think there's a shot. I think what LeBron did Monday night, to me, I think is a lot of things. I think number one, he's trying to tell the Lakers that if they really are all in and they do what I want, I may stay. But I think number two, he's also kind of feeling out. He could have been scouting the Cavs team Monday night, feeling out what the reception was from the fans, and I don't know, man. I found it very interesting. It was the same day that his son declared for the draft and was at the combine. And the Cavs, what's interesting about the draft too is the Lakers have the 17th pick and the 55th pick. Like I said, I don't think they can justify that. The Cavs, though, and Brandon Williams, the assistant GM, how much influence he has, I don't know, but I'm sure him and Kobe Altman have a pretty good relationship. I mean, the Cavs promoted him from director of scouting to assistant GM 2 years ago, before they got Donovan, by the way. And so Donovan doesn't play Monday night. He's in Dan Gilbert's seats. The Cavs will potentially have a draft pick this year in the first round in about the mid-20s. I think if you're the Cavs, because you're the Cavs, you're not LA, could you take Bronny in the first round with the 20th pick? 20 whatever pick? I think you could. Because this is a very weak draft class. There's not a consensus number one overall pick. That tells you how weak it is. And once you get to the 20s, if you're the Cavs, you kind of look at Bronny. Could he become a backup point guard in this league, like a Derek White kind of guy? Drew Holiday. That's what he said. He models his game after Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Davion Mitchell. Could he become that kind of like role player? Maybe. But if you're the Cavs, why not roll the dice on it? And especially if you can get if LeBron's coming back too. So that's my take on all this. I think, to me, Monday night signaled LeBron. If you look at all the history I showed today, the timeline, everything, I just don't think. I think LeBron Monday night was really more signaling towards about a return to Cleveland. I really do. And I just don't. The Lakers not retaining Phil Handy, and just kind of, they're just not. I don't see where this roster can go. I think their problems in LA are deeper than just hiring JJ Redick and that's going to solve all the. Well, let's go get Trae Young. I just don't think that's a lot that has to happen anyways. And so, and if you're LeBron, if he has 2 years left, like they're saying, well, don't you want to go out? That wouldn't him and his son going to the Cavs and winning a championship? Wouldn't that be the best storybook ending? Wouldn't that be, to me, wouldn't that be the best way to finish out the career? Not staying out in LA and we may win, we may not. Yeah, I may play with my son, I may not. They may draft him. Even if LeBron and Bronny did go to the Lakers and he got his money and they're probably not going to win a championship. Most people wouldn't pick them. He's got to go through that Western Conference. and he just retires. I mean, yeah, it was still a great career, but it just doesn't have the same bang to it as the end. And what it reminds me of too is why I put this in the thumbnail. What this offseason signals to me is this is LeBron's last dance. And you remember Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, which I watched, we all watched during COVID. But Michael Jordan's last prime years with the Bulls, he went out with a championship, right? And LeBron James, he says he's the GOAT, which he should think that. But there's always this debate: is LeBron the GOAT? Is Jordan the GOAT? Well, if LeBron really wants to go out with a bang, in my opinion, LeBron's last dance, come back to Cleveland with your son and win a championship. Because if you look at his best shot at winning a championship right now, too, which he said after they lost and last year to Denver and this year as well, that his goal is to win it. He wants to win a championship. He's not competing for a championship, but he doesn't win a championship. It's a failure. When you going back to the Eastern Conference, which is significantly weaker, and you see this Cavs team's really not that far away off from the Celtics or anybody, really you're just a missing piece. I think if you put LeBron in this Cavs team with all these guys, they probably come out of the East and probably maybe win the title. That's just my opinion. I think a lot of people have wondered that and probably think that as well. And so that's kind. This is all my take on all this. Kind of what I was thinking when I saw this Monday night. All the flashbacks I had, all the history I showed today of LeBron's timeline, the last time he was in this situation, and I just don't. I think Monday night to me was more of a signal of Cleveland more than LA, and I could be wrong. And I'm not saying I'm 100% sold on that even because I don't know. One thing about LeBron, like Brian Windhorst said, he's very strategic, and even Brian Windhorst said there in that quote. I'm gonna bring that quote back up. He's followed LeBron a long time. He even said in the quote there at the end, he's extremely strategic, and I wish I could tell you I knew exactly what he was doing. I don't pretend to know, but he's got to be up to something, and I agree with that. That's where I'm at. We know he's very strategic. We know how he is. We can't tell you exactly what he's doing, but and Brian Windhorst don't know, but he's got to be up to something, and I agree with that too. But what is that something? And that's what I was trying to break down today. What is that something? And that's something to me, I think, was more about the Cavs because, like I showed earlier, if it's about the Lakers, they already told you they're all in. But I wonder how much of them not retaining Phil Handy, and nobody's ever really talked about that. Some people might say that's nothing. Maybe LeBron didn't care, but you retain the guy twice. He was with two head coaches already with LeBron in LA, and you just fired him with the head coach. And you didn't give the guy. If you would have hired JJ Redick, I would think if you hired JJ Redick, I'm sure LeBron would tell JJ Redick, "Hey, retain Phil Handy." But Phil Handy's fired. Now I don't know. Maybe if they hired JJ Redick, maybe he can hire him back. I don't know how all that works, but they did fire him. So I don't know how does Phil Handy feel about that, and how will LeBron feel about that? I just find all this interesting. And then you see the report today from Stephen A. Smith. LeBron's trying to convince the Lakers basically to draft his son. But what's the easiest way for LeBron to get his son drafted, in my opinion? You saw who the assistant GM of the Cavs was. He used to be the director of scouting, Brandon Weems. I'm sure Kobe All would be on board. And I'm sure Dan Gilbert, who was seats LeBron were sitting in the other night as his guest, would all do it. And take Bronny in the 20s and let LeBron's son get drafted in the first round and fulfill that for Bronny and LeBron and their family. And LeBron gets what he wants. Now, the money part of it, which has been a big thing. A lot of people said if we came back to Cleveland, it'd have to be a sign and trade. But if the Cavs took Bronny on June 23rd, free agency is a week later. According to now, whether Jason Lloyd even said this to you yesterday, whether he believed LeBron or not, LeBron said in that article back in 2012, I'll pull that up again, that he mentioned in the article that he would not close the door on coming back to Cleveland, but also he mentioned in the article he'd love to play with his son. That's his dream. And that at that point he would go, basically said he would go to whatever team possibly he would think about it. And it wouldn't be about money at that point. And so that's very interesting to me as well, because if he's not interested, if it's not about the money, I don't. I mean, the Cavs probably can't give him the money the Lakers can because of where they're at in the cap. But I mean, if he's willing to take less money, and maybe like they were maybe maybe Dan Gilbert give him some type of incentive off the court to make up the money off the court somewhere else, the $40 million. I will say this: this is very interesting. Nobody's talked about as well in Cleveland. Yeah, everybody's talking about Donovan today. What's Donovan going to do? Is Donovan leaving? I don't think Donovan's leaving personally. I don't think the Cavs are going to trade him to the Lakers. I don't think he's going to the now. I don't think he's going to go to Miami. I don't think that trade's happening. Miami doesn't have the assets, and I don't think the Cavs are trading to the Lakers. But if the Cavs did trade him, I do think, and LeBron wasn't coming back, and let's say Donovan wanted out, I do think Brooklyn would be an option. I do think Cam Thomas would be actually a really good piece here. But I don't think Donovan's leaving. I don't think the Cavs want him to leave. Dan Gilbert even said recently, too, he doesn't feel that way. A lot of people plugged into the Cavs that are really on it, like Jason Lloyd. He thinks Donovan's staying now, too. And I think Donovan's staying, too. I think if Donovan would have played tonight in this Game 5 tonight, after sitting out Game 4, then I would start to say, gee, maybe he is leaving. But the fact that he sat out the same night LeBron came in the building and he's not playing again tonight, and I don't think LeVert might not be playing either, kind of signals to me that they know they're not going to win the series. Number one, they're packing it up. But also, I think Donovan and the Cavs are on the same page business-wise, if that makes sense, for the long term. And so, again, I don't see but with Donovan, though, my point, though, I'm trying to get back to, Donovan Mitchell is not going to get the max money he wanted this offseason. He didn't play 65-plus games this year, but in the new CBA says he didn't play 65-plus games this year, and he didn't make any of the All-NBA teams. So he's not going to get the super max that he wanted, which is about $40 million less. 40 than what he could have got. So if he would have played 65-plus games and made an All-NBA team, he would have got $40 million more in his deal. I don't know, it was per year, I think it was, or maybe towards in total, $40 million. That's a lot of money. But if you're the Cavs now, you don't have to pay him that extra $40 million. Maybe under the table, you take that $40 million and put it elsewhere. I don't know. Just saying. But but yeah, that's something I haven't heard people talk about either. He didn't play 65-plus games. He didn't make any of the All NBA teams. I don't think he will. Maybe they haven't announced it yet, but I don't think he will. Because he didn't play enough games. He's not going to get that supermax deal he wanted. So, in a sense, you could see Donovan maybe wanting to go to a place like LA because you can make that money off the court back. He can make up that money off the court, but I just don't think he wants to leave. I don't think people, primarily because he doesn't know what LeBron's doing. Nobody does. And I think the Cavs, if they have an idea that LeBron wants to come back, and maybe Donovan probably would know too, he's going to stay in Cleveland. He's going to try to win a championship. And so that's my take on all this. Now, the last team which I mentioned, or you mentioned I was going to mention, I need to talk. I'm stuttering. My mouth's a little dry. After I talk for a while, I'm ranting and rambling today. I need some water. All right. Now, let me say this clearly. The other team I said that could be a possibility that I'm going to show you right now. I don't believe this. This is the main team. I think the Cavs are the main team if he leaves LA. But this team right here, I've mentioned this team in the past. My dad and I both said on the show, we heard from somebody that actually really knows LeBron, not just some cousin in Akron like everybody else. I'm not going to say the gentleman's name, obviously, but he is connected to LeBron very well. And he mentioned the Dallas Mavericks to us a couple years ago. This was in the summer of 2022. And you remember I did a Rumble video with Mike last year talking about the Mavericks. And I said, I think it's a real possibility. Bill Simmons has mentioned the Mavericks. Brian Windhorst mentioned the Mavericks at one point. Well, Stephen A. Smith said yesterday, he thinks, quote, you can see right here, ESPN Stephen A. Smith, Dallas Mavericks could position themselves to draft Bronny to sign LeBron. And so what he's saying here is that he thinks the Dallas Mavericks could possibly be another team that would draft Bronny, and that would help lure them to sign LeBron to come to Dallas with Kyrie and Luka with Bronny. And so there's a lot of things here. I do think Dallas is a wild card in all this because Number one, Jason Kidd, LeBron's guy, was on the coaching staff when they won the title in LA in 2020. Is the head coach in LA, or excuse me, is the head coach in Dallas. It just gave him an extension, by the way. Jared Dudley, who's assistant on the team, is LeBron's good friend, was on that 2020 team as well. Him and LeBron are very close. He's an assistant coach of Jason Kidd's in Dallas. LeBron loves Luka. We all know about LeBron and Kyrie. Although Ramon Shelbourne did say in an article that if those two didn't team up again in LA, LeBron and Kyrie, that she didn't see it happening again. Make of that what you wish. Just want to throw that out there. But Kyrie's on the team, and LeBron loves Kyrie, and they've talked about playing with each other again. And through my own little investigation, the girl that Bronny's supposed to be with, his girlfriend, allegedly, I think they're still together. She's from LA, but guess what? She now goes to school in Dallas, and she lives in Dallas. Just saying. I found that just throwing it out there. It may mean something, may need not. I don't know. May not mean anything. Maybe Brian would like to go to Dallas. I don't know. But just saying. I do think that they're a wild card, I think, in my opinion. I think they're a wild card. But if I had to bet right now, I'm leaning more towards the Cavs. I don't want to commit and say anything because, like Brian said, you don't know what actually is going on. Hell, for all I know, he may sign that $163 million stay in LA with the Lakers. But this is all very interesting. And it's crazy. It shows you, even at 40 years old almost, he'll be 40 this December. He's still playing at such a high level that he really is still for a lot of teams like the Cavs, he's just the piece away that they need to possibly win a championship. And just he brings so much more to the city and just the economy, the market. He boosts your market immediately when he comes to your city. And I just think too it'd be an amazing story. Him and his son coming back to Cleveland, finishing it off where it all started, and possibly winning a championship as well. That would be just unbelievable. I think a great storybook ending, and it'd be great for the city as well, which is what I care most about, was the city and the people. But I do think it's interesting, and so I just want to lay all this out there today. I had some people text me the last couple of days, hit me, what do you think about him going to the game tonight? I said, you're gonna have to wait and see until I do a show on it. I'll break it all down to what I really think, and so there you have it. That's my thoughts on LeBron and his last dance, possibly LeBron's last dance. That's what I'm calling this. He's got this, whatever decision he makes this upcoming free agency, it's his last dance. What's it going to be? We'll have to wait and see and find out. Hopefully it's with the Cavs. But that's my take on all this. Let me know what you guys think about us. What's your thoughts on LeBron? Where do you think he's going to go? What do you think Monday night meant? What do you think it signaled? Let me know in the comments below. Just your guys' thoughts. If you disagree with me, that's okay. It's okay to have good dialogue, people. We don't need to argue and hate each other just because you disagree with somebody. Some of these videos I've done before about the Browns in the past, or did stuff like this, like Deshaun Watson, people are just like, in Ohio State especially, my gosh, these people go nuts in the comments, like, how dare you? You should shake your head and all this. Like, dude, it's just an opinion. Calm down. All right. It's not that serious. But let me know what you guys think and leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Gone.